USIP, 30th of January 2024, a second military base in Africa. Is China considering it? China is constructing bases across the globe as part of its full-scale offensive against the international community. Wang Yi, China's foreign minister, visited Egypt, Tunisia, Togo, and Côte d'Ivoire in keeping with the custom of Chinese foreign ministers visiting African nations. Though there have been constant rumors, none of these coastal nations have been given any thought as China's following military location in Africa. Thus, asking what China thinks about basing in Africa would be reasonable. China's long-term strategy, however, is still unknown as it deals with an increasingly assertive and multipolar Africa during a period of economic challenges at home. China's Djiboutian base. China has one African base, which opened in the Horn of Africa in 2017 in Djibouti. As part of an effort to secure economic corridors alongside developing alternatives like the lengthier but less disputed Mozambique-South Africa route, the overt purposes of this installation are anti-piracy and freedom of navigation. Attacks by Somali pirates and Houthi terrorists funded by China demonstrate Djibouti's strategic importance. Maintaining navigability across the Bab al-Mandeb Strait is crucial. 2011 saw China scrambling to defend 35,000 individuals in Libya on a shoestring, highlighting the necessity of an African foothold. Because of its advantageous location, Djibouti is home to multiple foreign bases. There are bases for Saudi Arabia and Japan as well. Perhaps not much can be inferred about China's intentions to increase its military presence in the area from its sizable facility in Djibouti. U.S. military installations abroad may prove problematic in times of emergency. One such liability is Airbase 201 in Niger, where it has become challenging for the U.S. military to continue operations following the coup last year. Although it hasn't had much luck thus far, the U.S. military is looking into additional points of presence in West Africa. While visiting coastal West Africa earlier this month, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken may have discussed this matter with Cabo Verde, Côte d'Ivoire, Nigeria, and Angola officials. The British and Kenya engaged in challenging discussions in 2021 to prolong the lease on a training site. In the Sahel, French bases were shut down, and UN operations were disassembled. The unsuccessful attempt by India to establish a military installation in the Seychelles is an example of this African trend. African governments have benefited politically from hosting military bases, but economic progress hasn't always followed. Although working with strong countries has been crucial for maintaining domestic legitimacy, the general populace has not always profited from it. Additionally, basing has proven profitable for nations like Djibouti, where the International Monetary Fund estimates it will contribute 0.1% of GDP in 2020. This has allowed Djibouti to capitalize on its advantageous location as a strategic choke point between the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. An imperative for the host as well. However, the African governments that host military bases may face political risks due to these installations. Foreign bases are typically viewed with caution by African communities, political leaders, and institutions for several reasons, one of which is the belief that the foreign military could potentially compromise the domestic agenda or sovereignty of the host country. There is growing ambivalence throughout Africa regarding the establishment of additional foreign outposts. A 2016 Astronomical Units Peace and Security Council resolution advised nations to exercise circumspection while approving new foreign bases. Considering the volatile geopolitical conditions in some areas of the region, this opinion has become even more entrenched. Undoubtedly, China is alert to these developments and will be cautious about the temporary character of these accords, just like other parties. China is accustomed to taking precautions to avoid being taken by surprise, as demonstrated by the thousands of Chinese nationals who became stuck in Libya in 2011 and the threat to its commercial interests in South Sudan. However, China's desire to establish a more significant presence in the area does not always translate into reality. African nations may have rejected or delayed Chinese offers, but they have excellent incentives to avoid appearing to be taking sides. To minimize the military relevance of its strategic port investments, China may create dual-use facilities in the African ports it has invested in and expand existing civilian ports. 100 African ports are now being built, financed, or run by Chinese state-owned shippers. Wang's recent trip there demonstrated China's commitment to connecting with Africa. They probably talked about China's security interests as well. Shipping lines, fishing, pirate interests, and China's global security initiative might have been discussed. Africa is becoming more aggressive and asking China and other foreign powers to clarify their security interests. China will keep looking for opportunities in Africa, but its success will depend on the connections and politics of the region. For now, the recent visit by a Chinese group to coastal Africa was more about promise than actual outcomes.